complicated. No, we'll get through this part quickly. I know that some of you want to see this. So we use the term bonded cysteine in place of cysteine. Here we see two molecules, and note that the sulfide bond between the two cysteine to form cysteine. Let's go back to understanding whey protein isolate, the one represented by immunocount. It is undenatured. Undenatured. This is where it gets interesting, and this is where recent knowledge of protein science is coming into common knowledge. Undenatured means that the original three-dimensional shape of the protein is intact, and it appears as it does in nature. You see that this protein is wound up like a ball of wool, and this allows contact between the individual strands of protein to keep its natural shape or configuration. So this allows the disulfide bonds to remain intact. Now the problem with these whey proteins is that in the manufacture and refinement of whey protein, these are extremely sensitive proteins, and they're extremely sensitive to becoming denatured by heat, by mechanical agitation, and other disturbances. And when that denature takes place, it unfolds the protein, so it loses its three-dimensional shape. When you lose the three-dimensional shape of these proteins, you lose their ability to raise glutathione. So whey proteins remain, commercial whey proteins remain an excellent source of nutrition, but have lost their ability to raise glutathione. Here we see an extreme close-up of a strand of this protein, and you see that the bond between the cysteine in an unfolded protein becomes broken. So this is why we call the active ingredient in immunocal bonded cysteine. Now I know that's a lot for you to see, but I have made a video on explaining what bonded cysteine is. You can access it through my YouTube channel. It's available in Spanish as well, I think. I lose track of these things. So feel free to visit my YouTube page, which you will find many videos on glutathione and immunocal. It's YouTube / Dr. Jimmy Gutman, one word. Now, most people wonder, why not just take cysteine supplements to raise glutathione? This is easily available. I mean, it's found everywhere in the market. You'll find it at the natural health food store, and it's being promoted as a glutathione precursor. Has this been shown to be true? In fact, it's not true. Eating cysteine is not an effective way of raising glutathione. Cysteine is very unstable in your digestive system and becomes rapidly oxidized. And when it becomes oxidized, cysteine actually carries a certain toxicity. If you have too much free cysteine, it can serve as a pro-oxidant, which is actually the opposite of what you want to do. And another proof of its inability to raise glutathione is the fact that doctors don't use cysteine. It's a cheap thing to get. You would think doctors would use it. This is why in the 1960s, science invented N-acetylcysteine. So So this is where you take cysteine and you put an acetyl chain on it, and this will slow down the oxidation of the cysteine. So about 10 or 20% of the cysteine will actually survive the trip to make it to your cells, which makes it work. What about cysteine? Again, note the spelling. Again, this needs to be addressed. Cysteine itself is poorly absorbed. It just has not been demonstrated to be an effective glutathione precursor, and there are many attempts and many research articles that have looked at that. So just to summarize, cysteine is the amino acid that's needed to form glutathione, but furthermore, it is a specific form of cysteine. For example, if you took a Munical, which contains bonded cysteine, and you boiled it, after it's boiled, does it raise glutathione?
No.
No. But it contains the same amount of cysteine. Do you understand that?
It's denatured.
It's not the amount of cysteine, it's the form of the cysteine. So what actually works to raise glutathione levels in the human being? What works? See, the oral glutathione doesn't work, and glutathione needs to be produced by the cell itself. So we need the precursors. And this is what we find in these medical references. Again, these two books, they sit on the desk of every doctor in North America. I'm going to ask you all, and I'm going to ask Aurelio, that we need to look into whether one of these books exists in Spain, or is it the European Union that has a common book like this? So we need, as our next project, Aurelio, to get a Munical into that book. And in these North American books, there's only two things that are listed under glutathione precursor. N-acetylcysteine and, of course, Munical. N-acetylcysteine is the go-to drug used by doctors worldwide to raise glutathione. It's a remarkably effective and life-saving drug. I use N-acetylcysteine in emergency situations. For example, it's the antidote to a paracetamol poisoning, which is actually, you use the name paracetamol? It's a very effective way of killing yourself. If you take a big old bottle of extra strength paracetamol, most of you will die. Maybe I shouldn't have told you that. But the way doctors will keep you alive, if you show up between 24 and 48 hours after an overdose, they give you N-acetylcysteine, which reverses the dramatically ill effects of the N-acetylcysteine. So it's an excellent drug. And finally, a Munical shows up in these books. And what a Munical represents is the richest source of natural glutathione precursors on the planet. closer look at N-acetylcysteine. It has literally thousands of clinical studies published on it, and it is a choice used by medical practitioners in hospitals, and it's available by prescription and in certain countries as a supplement as well. Now, it has a few problems. Number one, it has what we call a short half-life. Remember we discussed half-life before? Well, the half-life of NAC is about 3 or 4 hours. So in order to keep glutathione levels up during the 24-hour period, you need to take the NAC 3 or 4 times a day. Except taking NAC, there's some very real side effects. So if you felt nausea or you had vomiting or you had stomach cramps after the first dose, you're going to feel 4 times as bad after the 4th dose. But I use it in an emergency situation because I'd rather have a sick patient than a dead patient. Are you supposed to laugh at that? Let's get back to Immunical. Immunical has been around for over 40 years now. And again, many research papers. But let's do a comparison between N-acetylcysteine and the Immunical, which is a whey protein isolate. Okay, this is a very important thing. The slides are going to be a little bit difficult, but I will make this available to you so you can take your time to go through it. Okay. So, which one of these to choose? Well, we pointed out some differences, the difference in half-life, the difference in toxicity. But once again, let's look again at how a cell makes glutathione. So what do? We get some glutamate. Where? Well, Immunical will supply you with glutamate. It's one of the amino acids that you will find. NAC won't. Get some cysteine. Where? Well, clearly, Immunical will give you cysteine. And not only cysteine, but Immunical will also give you cysteine. Both of these are a source of cysteine. So that's a form we call bonded cysteine. Get that? And acetylcysteine also provides cysteine. But only about 10 or 20% of it remains unoxidized. The other 80% or 85% of it is oxidized, and this is one of the reasons why NAC has side effects. Okay, so there's a difference there. We get a step that is called gamma-glutamyl cysteine. I know it's a mouthful, but this intermediary step requires an enzyme to change the glutamated cysteine into gamma-glutamyl cysteine. And you need to have this enzyme in order for NAC to work. Your body needs to have an adequate source of dipeptidase. In order to do that, but Immunical supplies you directly with gamma-glutamyl cysteine. Even if you're short in this enzyme, you will get this substance. And what about glycine? Where do we get glycine from? Immunical gives you glycine. And Then there's another enzyme called glutathione synthase, and finally we get glutathione. Do you see the difference now in the production of glutathione between these two products? N-acetylcysteine gives you some cysteine. Immunocal gives you glutamate, gives you cysteine and cystine, gives you gamma-glutamylcysteine, gives you glycine. It gives you everything that you need. And there's more differences between these two. When you eat Immunocal, you're also getting all of your essential amino acids, all of them. NAC provides none of them. So as a source of nutrition, this is so superior. Let's look at some more differences. Both of them raise glutathione levels. This is true. Half-life of NAC is 3 to 4 hours. The half-life of Immunocal is measured in days, even if you could measure it. NAC has side effects. Side effects are extremely rare with Immunocal. NAC is an excellent medication. Immunocal is an excellent source of nutrition. So when we talk about excellent nutrition, what are we talking about? We're talking about what we call a BV, or biological value. A biological value is a reflection of how important the protein is to your body. Clearly, not all proteins are the same. You're going to get much more out of a piece of nice, fresh salmon than you will out of a hot dog. And if we look at biological values of different proteins, this is another thing that we forget to mention about glutathione. About Immunocal. Immunocal, look at this chart. Immunocal has the highest biological value of any edible protein. Immunocal, I'll say it again, is the most important protein that you could eat. You can clap. We're getting close to the end.
Choice is clear.
Here's a good question for you. Where does cysteine come from? And when I talk about cysteine, I'm talking about L-cysteine, which you get in the natural health food store, and I'm talking about N-acetylcysteine. Where does the cysteine come from?
Milkway.
Has anybody asked this question? Let's take a look. Is it a natural product? Is it a synthetic product? Let's see. Why am I showing you a Chinese barbershop?
Oh, this is going to be
Because
nasty.
years ago, that's where we would get cysteine.
Oh no.
They would sweep up the hairs
You are kidding.
from Chinese barbershops
Oh, Jesus.
and Chinese hairdressers. And that was the source of cysteine.
What?
Please.
Oh, Jesus.
Now, people who are Jewish and people who are halal are forbidden to eat human remains. And whether it's a religious taboo or not, come on, that's a little bit gross, isn't it?
Yeah.
So the Chinese didn't want to lose the market for this rather good
In demand
substance.
substance.
So they switched to ducks. The Chinese have lots of ducks. So they started using duck feathers
Oh my god.
as a source of cysteine. Now the Americans see a business opportunity, they want to take advantage of it.
Oh.
So the Americans have a huge chicken industry,
Wow.
started making cysteine out of chicken feathers. Yes, the major source of cysteine we get is from chicken feathers. Is this a natural product?
Yeah?
Can you take a chicken feather and squeeze it really hard and the cysteine comes out? No. There's a whole manufacturing process using different chemicals and extraction techniques
Okay.
that you need to get cysteine.
Wow.
So is cysteine a natural product? They call it a natural product. Call it a natural product. It's as natural as the ethanol that you get at the petrol station, which is made out of corn. Okay?
Yeah.
What about glutathione? Where does glutathione come from? Is glutathione a natural product?
Right.
Here's a shocker. Glutathione supplements come from microbes. Yes, microbial growth. Usually they're from certain fungi like yeasts, like Saccharomyces, and
It's not so bad.
even from certain bacteria. We get glutathione from bacteria. But what do we need to do to these yeasts and bacteria? This gets me crazy.
All the Chinese names.
Here we see a study
Why Yin
where
Yalin.
these yeasts have been highly engineered to produce glutathione. In this article, the fungus Saccharomyces cerevisiae has been altered using an enzyme called reverse transcriptase. What it does is shuffles the genes around to produce glutathione. This is really high tech, and this is high tech genetic modification. Here we see a study where they took the same yeast and re-engineered the genes in the yeast. This is back from 2013. In another Chinese study, I'm hoping I'm showing, yes, the Chinese manipulated the genes of a bacteria called E. coli. Some of you have heard of this bacteria before, to raise the production of glutathione so it could be harvested. Here, scientists fused the genes of two different bacteria strains, Streptococcus and E. coli. They produced a Frankenstein bug
Oh wow.
that was able to generate glutathione.
Wow.
So, is this natural?
No.
I guess it depends on what your definition is. In either case, natural or not, this is 100%
OMG.
genetically modified organisms.
OMG.
100%. When you read the label on a bottle of glutathione pills, it tells you that it's a natural product. And some of them will even say not genetically modified. Absolutely untrue. Absolutely untrue. So I'm not saying that a genetically modified product is a bad thing, but the glutathione, even we know it doesn't work, is 100% genetically modified. So just in summary, here's a chart that covers many of the ways that glutathione can be raised. I know it's hard for you to read it, so I will zoom in on it. And what it does, it goes through PubMed to see if there's any research evidence and how strong the research evidence is on these different ways. Let's start by looking at glutathione itself. We looked at oral glutathione, very little evidence, stated by hundreds of research articles. Liposomal glutathione, well, that's a lot of people's favorite. We saw that there's one paper that shows that it works, so no. Intravenous glutathione, yes, it works for a few minutes. Sublingual glutathione, there's a few studies, but not enough substantiation to call it proof. Patches, please, don't waste your money. Nebulized glutathione, it works, but you need to be set up to do that. We've looked at glutathione, nasal glutathione, this nasal spray. It works in certain instances, but it's hard to get. Let's move on to whey. Well, it depends on the whey. If you're using a truly undenatured form of whey, then it works. N-acetylcysteine. This is the most researched drug to raise glutathione. Absolutely works, but you saw the difference between immunocal and acetylcysteine. Amino acid cysteine doesn't work very well. Cysteine doesn't work very well. Lipoic acid works a little bit. There are many other products that claim to raise glutathione that don't have any substantial research behind them, like Ribosys is one product, Protandim is another product. But in summary, if you look at this chart, there's two things that have been proven medically and accepted by the medical community to raise glutathione, marked in green, and that is N-acetylcysteine and our wonderful product, immunocal. I apologize for giving a little bit of a complicated lecture, and I apologize for being so negative. But the truth had to come out. The truth had to come out, and I don't know how much longer I will be speaking in front of a crowd, but you need to know that you are on the cutting edge of a revolution that is, although we've been around for 40 years, it's really starting right now. And you are here right now. And you have the most remarkable product in your hands. I wish you well and to health.